Hi, I am Ali Nisus, registered nurse and managing director of Nice Us Geriatric Home Care Training and Agency Limited, and this is Return the Favor, a web series giving you tips on how to properly care for your elderly parents. They took good care of you as a child, so now it's time to return the favor. Hi, and welcome back to Return the Favor. I am Ali Nisus, and today on episode 8, we will be talking about wound care. So, wound care is a 4-part series. So, log in and make sure and follow us for every single series. You will want to know more about this topic. The first topic we'll be looking at is basics of skin anatomy and physiology. The next video, we'll be doing all about wounds. The third one would be basics of wound assessment, and the final segment will be dynamics of wound healing. So today it's basics of skin anatomy and physiology, and the objective of this series is to equip persons with knowledge to not only identify a wound at different stages, but to understand the importance of the required intervention to prevent further damage or complications. But I must say this is just for information only. Always seek medical advice for any wound that you or your relative may have. Alright, so let's get into it. So basic anatomy and physiology. And anatomy, we're looking at anatomy first, and that is basically structure. So what is the structure of the skin? At the very top, right? So at the very top, you have the epidermis. Just under there is the dermis, and the layer underneath, it's called the subcutaneous layer. So the epidermis is at the top. It's not alive, it's dead cells. The dermis, the mid layer, has hair roots, sweat glands, nerves, and blood cells. And the subcutaneous or fat layer, it anchors the skin and it has fat in it. That's why it's called the fatty layer, right? So let's look at the blood supply to the skin. So blood vessels in the skin originate from the underlying muscles and they branch out into capillaries, and it forms a network in the subcutaneous and the dermis layer. So the deeper the wound, the greater it bleeds, the more it bleeds, and the more blood loss is the more complications. So that is why it's so important to know the type of wounds and how to mitigate the complications from each wound. So we looked at anatomy or structure, so now it's physiology, and physiology is function. Now remember, these are very, very basic explanations. You can find some more information on YouTube if you so desire, but these are very basic information. So physiology now, it's what the skin function, how the skin functions. So we have about 6 functions listed here. So let's look at the first one, and we're looking at protection. So the skin is the first line of defense, and it's a physical barrier for all your organs and structures within your body. When you have a break in your skin, which is a wound, you have a break in your barrier, a breach of your barrier. It can increase the risk of infection. You can increase the risk of blood loss, which may lead to less oxygen within the blood, and that may lead to as well the shifting of electrolytes within the body. The second function is sensory perception or touch. So we all know that we can feel pressure, we can feel pain, we can feel temperature through the skin. With persons with certain conditions such as diabetes mellitus, it is more difficult to perceive these functions because of the disease condition, right? So what that can tell you, persons with certain conditions, you have to pay closer attention to their skin because they may not recognize that they have a wound. So the third function, thermoregulation. and that means it controls the body's temperature. Elderly persons has a reduced function here. So be very careful of the clothing, be very careful of the room temperature. And when you're going to carry them to bathe, let them test the water, because you may test it and it may be warm for you, but when they test it, it's very hot, right? The fourth is excretion. So the skin releases small amounts of water and waste through small pores. So this process allows the skin to maintain the thermoregulation, the temperature, and balance of water and electrolytes. So when the place hot, you sweat a lot. When the place cold, you barely sweat at all. So that's what it means. The fifth function we're looking at today is metabolism. So skin helps maintain bones and teeth. Vitamin D, so you go out in the sun, and a dark person like me will absorb the sunlight and convert it to vitamin D. But be very careful of UV exposure and that harsh sun that can increase the risk of cancer. And the sixth function we're looking at is absorption. And certain medications can be absorbed through the skin, like topical medication, right? So we looked at anatomy, which is structure. We looked at physiology, which is function. So let's look at the effects of the aging skin, because this series is all about the elderly, right? And we want to return the favor. We want to be able to take care of our elderly parents, just like they took care of us when we were children. So what effects can you anticipate as the skin ages? You have a decreased thickness in the skin. So what does that mean? There's a decreased level of protection and a decreased level of warmth, right? So we spoke about being very cognizant of the temperatures that is affecting your elderly parents. Another thing, you have decreased vascularity. So less blood flow in the skin, less nourishment, and less oxygenation. So you have to be aware they may need a little more water. They will need a richer source of nourishment within their diet. And another function that we will look at is special cells. There are special cells such as melanocytes and mast cells that may be reduced within the aging process, and it may increase the risk of skin cancer and may decrease your body's inflammatory response, which is your body's ability to fight bacteria. So for your elderly relative or parent, you have to understand that they may be more susceptible to infection because of the decrease in function of the skin. Don't forget to subscribe to get more content like this. And if you want more details on the topic for today, check out the blog on our website. Link in the description. Until next time.